This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, rabbis. Welcome, everyone. We continue in the Navi Yoel, and I hope the wait was well worth it, because we're going to be learning now a continuation of everyone's favorite subject, and that is the subject of locust. Okay? So I know you've been waiting the whole week, but we finally have arrived. Okay? We're in Parak Beis, Pasuk Beis, the Navi Yoel. Yom Choshech, a day of darkness, va'afela, and gloom. Yom Anan, a cloudy day, va'arafel, with the thick cloud. Arafel is fog. Kishachar, like the dawn. Paros al haharim, spread on the mountains. Am Rav va'atzam, a numerous and mighty nation. Kamayu lo'niya min ha'olam, there never was like it from the existence of the world. V'acharav lo yosef, there will never be again like it. Ad shnei dar vadar, throughout the generations, throughout all the years of generations. So the Navi is comparing the day of the coming of the locust to a day of darkness. The Malbim says, Yom Choshech Mitzayir es hayom shu chosh va'afela mitzad heder ha'ar. It describes it as dark from the vantage point of lack of light. V'gam hu yom anon va'arafel. It's also a cloudy and gloomy day. Right, there are two kinds of darkness. Some darkness is just the absence of light, but then you have a reality, tangibility of darkness, and that's cloudy. She'enoi choshech ha'adari, rak choshech ma'amash ha'idei adim, through the mist, v'kiturei arafel hama'afilim, and the thickness of the dark cloud. V'darach ha'choshech hahu, and the way of the darkness, nira prishas ha'arba, is seen in the spreading of the grasshoppers. K'shachar ha'parash al ha'arim, like the dawn that spread on the mountain, ba'boiker. Ken Yisrael, arashi ha'arim, so too will be seen on the tops of the mountain, noitzetz umavrik l'merachik, sparkling and shining from a distance, and that is the amra va'atzum, that there never was. Okay. The next pasuk, lefanav, before it, achla eish, fire consumes. What does that mean? Before the grasshopper? What fire?
And after the grasshoppers finish doing what they're doing, it looks similar to what would have happened to the vegetation had there been a fire. So wiped out.
So it's what does it mean? Before it, there is fire. Before the grasshoppers, there's fire. V'acharav, and after it, talahit lahava, the fire blazes. What is that? Is that literal? Is that allegorical? Kigan Eden ha'aretz lefanav. Before the grasshoppers came, it was like the Garden of Eden. V'acharav, and after it, midbar shmama, desolate desert. V'gam pleita loy hoisoloi, with no remnant. Let's see Mitzudas David. Lefanav. Ratzaloymar hahashchasa tia atzuma kokach. The devastation will be so great. Ki'ilu ha'esh achla yevul ha'aretz, as if a fire consumed the produce of the land, lefnei ba'yai, before it came. U'ki'ilu halav surefa ha'yevul, and it's as if the fire burnt the produce acharei halchai, after it went. Meaning it is so all-consuming. It looks as if the fire came and consumed everything and burnt everything down after it. Because if you would take a look at grass, you wouldn't have thought that locusts could be so devastating. So when they're done with it, it looks like first the fire came through and then a fire finished it off. Lefanav, before they came, the Mitzudas David says, it was like the Garden of Eden, Malaya Miyavol, full of produce. And there were no remnants. Says Rashi, Lefanav achla eish, mashchisim es hakol. They destroyed everything, as if fire consumed before them and the flame after them.
Weren't there Jews who ate locusts? I think the Teimanim had a Masorah that the locusts...
There's certain locusts that you're allowed to eat. But these were like devastating locusts. I don't know that they ate these type of locusts.
Different locusts, you said.
Yeah. Okay.
I never had this.
Kemari susim arehu. They had the appearance like horses. Uchifarashim, and like horsemen, ken yirotzun, so shall they run. What does that mean? They have the appearance of horses. Rashi says b'merutzase, and they're running. They look like horses running. Let's see the Malbim for the deeper meaning here. So the Malbim pasuk Dalet Kamare Mitzayer in Yanoi Kesusim Haboam Be'es Milchama Lichboy Shesa Aretz. It describes the Inyan like horses that come at the time of a war to conquer the earth. Vine Hasus Ba'atzma Yesh Le Gevura Larotz Baram Varash. A horse has inherent power to run with strength. V'alzeh Omar Kamare Susim Areu. This is what it means. They run like horses. Kichein Yarotz Baram Varash. V'im Yirkav Adam Al Asus. If a person rides on a horse, Sha'az Yikra Parash, then they're called a parash. Now it's like this. Horses could run fast, but not as fast as if there's a person on them. Because when a person's on them, giddy up, right? The person, he pushes the horse to maximize his running ability. So, Kemaris is mareo. They run with power, the same way a horse has an independent ability to run with power. But if a person rides on the horse, because then it's called a parash, Yars and Hirs Yoisai, the other Machricha, Pizeh, Amar of a parashim Ken Yorotzen, Kigam Hu, Yesh Loimer Oid Machriach Larot, Shehi Pikudas Hashem. How are these grasshoppers like a parash? Because God is, so to speak, as forcing them, pressuring them to move it. It's like the gezerah of God is riding on their backs. Okay, fine. So that's the first. So two analogies. Number one, they have the power of the horse. Number two, they could run faster as if there's a rider. Number three, pasukei, kikoil markavos, like the sound of a chariot. Al Rashe Heharim, on the mountaintop, Yirakeda, and they dance. They leap. Kikoil Lahavesh, like the sound of the flaming fire. Achla Kash. The straw, they consume straw. In other words, like the sound of a flame of fire consuming straw. Ke'am Otzum, like a mighty people, Aruch Milchama, set up for battle. Let's see Metzudas David. Al Rashe Haharim Yiraktan. They leap on the tops of mountains. Asher Markedin, the Mrutzasan, they dance in their running on the tops of mountains. Sha'kol Nishma L'Meirachak, the sound is heard from afar. Achal Akash. It compares them like the sound of a burning fire. They eating straw.
You have a wildfire. The sound of a wildfire.
It crackles.
It's very loud, and you can tell it's coming even
It
from
travels
the noise.
quickly.
So the consuming locust, you heard the eating, the devouring, the consuming. It was like
Of the flying,
it was audible. Ke'am atzum erech mechama, like a mighty nation. Say, I guess the Navi is saying, don't think, there's a couple of bugs are coming. This is going to be. It's a frightful, fearful experience. Rashi, the Mitzvah David says, Achla kash, az mashmas hakol. Then the sound is heard. Kein nishma har ashas kol ha'arba. Ka'am otzum. Like a mighty nation. Says the Malbim, kakol markavois. Now for the first time we're comparing it to chariots. Says the Malbim, kakol markavois al rashi harim yirakedon, shal yidei shemischabrim ke'echad. The fact that all these locusts come together, Yashmiu Koil, their sound is heard, Koil Markavois, like the sound of chariots. V'hagam she'in darach markava lalos al rashi harim. Now the truth is, chariots don't usually go to the mountaintop. Heim yurakdu sham, these locusts skip there, Koil Markavois, like the sound of chariots. Koil. Now, says the Malbim, Achar shetzir inyanei ba'atzmai, now that it describes the matter itself, Mitzayer hakol shenishma idei pulasai, it describes the sound that is heard through their activities, that they destroy everything. Sheyashches esakol yashmi hakol, like fire consuming straw. Okay, so it says a Malbim, now that it described the sound of these locusts, now it's going to describe the sound of the locust descending the mountain, headed to the people, like the array of warfare, like an army headed toward a city. So this is a new sound. The first sound is the sound of the locusts themselves, and now we describe their sound as they descend toward the people. Mipana, pasuk vav. Mipana, from before him, yachilu amim, nations tremble. Kalpanim kibtzu faror, all faces have gathered faror. What's faror? Rashi said, the Targum says, uchmin kikdera, they're black like a pot. Says the Metzudas David, yachilu amim. Kulam yachardu mipanav, everyone is afraid. V'yashem shilam la'am ha'arach l'machama, because the grasshoppers are compared to a nation who are as arrayed for war. So we describe the people also. Amar by lashon hanoifel ba'am. We utilize a language that is applicable for an am. This is somewhat of an exaggeration. Now, what does this mean? Their faces are black. The faces of people are black like a pot.
If you say that nowadays, you lose your job.
You have to have a job first. Okay. Pasuk Zayin. Ki giborim yerutzon. They run like warriors. So what's this adding? Ka'anshe melchama, like men of war. Ya'alu chayma. They ascend the wall. V'ish b'drachav yelechon. This means
they don't break rank. Like when you in the olden days when you see them lined up the soldiers together with their swords and their shields, and they march together as a line, and they don't break rank.
Orderly.
Right?
Each man goes in his way. What does that mean? They will not impede their path. Let's see Metzudas David.
Nothing will stop them.
V'lo ya'abatun archaisam. Let's see Metzudas David. V'ish kol echad yelech b'darkai hamyuchala. Each one will go in his path, which is designated for him. V'lo yelchol ba'erach ma'ukam umuta. They will not go in a crooked or twisted path, but rather each man will go in his designated path, and nothing will get in their way. They will not be diverted. Actually, Rashi says, Ein lo dimyon, this expression of lo ya'abetun has no comparison in the Tanakh. Says Malbim, on Pasuk Zayin, now we're going to describe how they conquer the wall of the city. First, they will run to the wall like mighty warriors. The nation will array their warfare from the wall. And at the opening of the gate, they have to run with to run to the wall, to get to the wall and chase away the fighters. Then they need to know the techniques of war. Meaning basically, to fight a city, you have to run valiantly, get to the wall to fight off those who are opposed to you. And you have to know the techniques of how to get up the wall. So va'az says Imam Yisadru la'anshei achayil derech miyuchad l'chol gadud.
The locusts have a military strategy. They know how to attack.
I mean, the same way when you go to, whenever you're fighting warfare, you always have to have an escape route, and you have to have a side path to veer off in case it's not working out. But when it says each locust goes in its path and it does not deviate, it means it will not even have to take the back route out. Ve'ish achiv lo yidchakon. No man pushes his brother. Gever b'mesilasa yelechon. Each man in his path he will go. Uviyad hashalach yipoilu lo yivtza'u. And on the sword they will fall, but they won't be wounded.
Okay, Rabbi, why is Yoel devoting so much time and effort to describe how the locusts are going to do what they have to do? I mean, talk about the Makos and Paro. The devastation there was tremendous. And there's a few psukim.
It's not so long. Why is this such a descriptive prophecy?
You get the message across. You know, the locusts stick together, they devastate. Yeah, it does look like, after a fire, destroy the vegetation, and nothing stands in their way. 3 psukim, you could say everything you have to say.
Just say the locusts are coming. Okay, let's explore that. Let's see if we can. So here in Pasuk Ches it says, each man will not push his friend, each man will go in his path. Uve'ad hashelach, and upon the sword they will fall, but lo yivtzo, they will not be wounded. What does this mean? It says Mitzvah David, lo yidchaykon, zelazak ki kol echad, yelech v'msilasa yam yuchaloi, uve'ad hashelach yipoilo yishkavu ala charavos. They will lie on the sword and they will not be wounded.
They're unstoppable. Unstoppable.
Okay.
That's basically what he's saying. There's nothing
Mm-hmm.
Nothing man can do to stop the devastation.
Ba'ir yashaiku, against the city, they stride. Yashaiku, they stride. Let's look in back to the Targum Yonasan for a moment in Pasuk Ches. It says, "Uviyad hashelach yipoilu lo yivtzo." They will fall on the sword. That's how the Mitzvah David translates it, and they will not be wounded. So the Targum Yonasan says like this: La'asar di'inon shlichin, to the place that they're sent, katlin, they're killed, v'la makablan mamain, and they don't take any money. So what is that referring to? That these locusts are sent, and they go, and they're killed, and they don't get any money for it. Says Rashi, v'la yivtzo, v'la yikablan mamain. V'yanisan pasar by lashon shlichus, that b'shvil the shlichus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they basically cast their life mineged, and they don't take any benefit of money. Ba'ir yashaiku.
They eat. Right? They eat all the vegetation.
It sounds like they do this with abandon, to fulfill the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, despite the fate that they're going to endure. Okay. Ba'ir yashaiku, they stride against the city. Ba'chayma yerutzun, they run against the wall. Ba'batam yal, they go up in the houses. Ba'ad hachaloinim, in the windows, yavayo kaganav, they come like a ganav. Rashi, Ba'ir yashaiku, what does it mean? They yashaiku lashon hashmas kol, a language of producing noise. Kamay kemesek gavim, doiv shoykek. Mitzudas David says, "Ba'ir yashaku b'tor b'toich within the city yashmiu kol, their voice is heard. V'yarutzu ala chaymois, v'yalu b'batim, v'yavoyu b'hem derech hachaloinos, like a ganav." Okay. Pasuk Yud, Lefanav Ragza Eretz, before them, the earth quakes. Ra'ashu Shamayim, the heavens shake. Shemesh v'yarech kadaru, the sun and the moon, they have darkened. V'chaychavim, and even the stars Asvu Nagam have gathered in their glimmer. What does this mean? Lefanav Ragza Eretz, V'tzomer Tsar Gadol Yeh Ba'olam, will be great devastation in the world. Be'es Yavai. Kilu tirgas haaretz, as if the earth quaked, v'yirashu hashamayim, and as if the sun and the moon darkened, and they didn't shine. So, in other words, we're painting a very. This is not just. This is not a typical attack of locusts where people just don't have what to eat. It sounds like it's a devastating catastrophe that affects the whole atmosphere and the whole feel of the environment, and it's as if there's just complete annihilation of all produce, and all of nature, so to speak, stops offering its contribution to the environment. Let's see the Malbim for a moment. Pasuk Yud, Lefanav Ragza Eretz Ra'ashu Hashem Ratzol Sheyevutal Seder HaMa'arechas. The arrangement of the constellations will be nullified. It will be divine from God. Al Kain, therefore Shamayim Argiz. The Shamayim trembles, Vatirash Ha'aretz V'Makayma, and the earth quakes. Sham Ratzolaimer Sha'Hashem Yisaders HaMa'arechas. God will arrange the constellations V'Yishaneu and change it B'inyan Sheyachriv as Bavel Aidei HaMa'arechas. So he's saying like this. There's a pasuk in Yeshaya, Perek Yud Gimel. It says, Al Kain Shamayim Argiz. Vatira Sha'aretz Min Makayma. There it's going on Bavel. There it means Hashem will change the Ma'areches in a way to destroy Bavel. But here, God is not going to act through the constellations of the heaven. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. First the earth will tremble. Memela, the heavens will be nisrash, because everything will cease through Hashem's divine interference and providence. So the Malbim is contrasting this to what happened in the time of Yeshaya. What's God going to do? Last pasuk. V'Hashem nasan koilai lefnei chelai. God will place forth His voice. God will emit His voice before His army. Ki rav ma'od machaneo, his camp was very great. Ki atzum oisei devarai, those who do His word are powerful. Ki gadol yom Hashem, the day of God is great. V'noira ma'od, and very awesome. Umi yechilenu, who could contain it? Who could bear it? Rashi says, V'Hashem nasan aleim koilai, God will emit His voice, b'maimer neviyav lefnei shilchel b'hem eschelo zeh, before He sends this army. Kirav ma'od machaneu, His camp is very great if you don't improve. Let's just conclude with the Malbim on Yud Aleph, because after this, now the Navi warns to do tshuva. And if I'm not mistaken, we come to one of the haftarahs of the year. Okay, so the pasuk, we'll see the Malbim. Vashem mefarish hatam. Now the Navi is explaining the reason sheyivutulu seder ha'marachas, that the order of the constellations will cease. Mivnei she'Hashem nasan koilai, because God gave His voice. V'hu pakad hadavar b'hashgachasai, and He is visiting the matter in His divine providence. V'hinei yomer Hashem. V'hinei yomer Hashem nasan koilai v'hechriz l'fnei chelai. Before the chel comes, Hashem announces it. Shehagam ki rav ma'od machaneo, which is the arba that He sent to destroy the land. Nevertheless, otzum oisei devarai, someone who follows the word of Hashem, that Hashem says to do tshuva and to forsake your sin, is stronger than God's machaneh and could be mizgaber on the arba and chase them out from the land. Okay, so according to the Malbim, this pasuk actually is an introduction to the Navi's command to do tshuva, and we'll begin that Be'ezus Hashem next time. Okay? Shkoyach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.